episode of the Boy Time Podcast. My name is Mike Cheslick. Back at it again with a new episode. As always, joined by Babby.
Mm.
Ooh. We're back at it again. New podcast. And oh boy, it's a doozy. Kind of. Not really for me. Because I just started a new job. So I've been kind of busy readjusting. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to watch movies, and I was also trying to finish The Sopranos before I started my new job. So that's kind of where all my time went that I would be watching movies. So I won't talk about The Sopranos because my co-host has not finished it. Maybe one day we'll do a little Boy Time present on The Sopranos. That one might be difficult because it's a lot to talk about. But we could give it the college try. So, yeah, but I think the long story short, it's very good. It's a very good television program that just kind of ends. I don't know how else to explain it. um, yeah, but won't be talking about that. I think that's pretty much it for TV that I saw. I'm going to start the Fallout show, and then that's going to be a Boy Time present because there's only one season of it, and that's for now. I did see that they're already picked it up for a second season, and that Death Claws are gonna be in it.
Ooh.
What? I can't believe they weren't in the first season. That's like having The Last of Us not have a bloater. I don't know if that's an apt comparison. But also, I don't think I've played enough of the Fallout series to know how Bethesda treats Death Claws, because I know how Obsidian treats Death Claws. And who made the original? It's not BioWare.
I don't remember.
Whatever.
Yeah, I only remember Death Claws in New Vegas because of how early you can interact with them if you
if
go
you
a certain
want to.
way.
Yeah. That's what's so great about that game. Well, not the only thing, but like you see New Vegas as soon as you walk out of Doc Mitchell's shed, and if you want to, you can just beeline it straight there. But there's a bunch of Death Claws, which are
I have absolutely done that once.
I think I did too, just to try it. But I also think on the way there, there's Death Claws and Cazadors, which are like big bugs that look like bloat flies, but hit like semi trucks and poison you, I think. So they're like the worst things. So yeah, they're really disincentivizing you to beeline it straight to New Vegas, but you can. Technically.
And you should.
You should. Although I think if you show up to New Vegas like level 2, I think you're going to get one shot by everything
Yeah,
there.
you can't do anything when you get there. But you can say that you did it.
And that's really what's all important, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's such a good game. That's really all there is to say about it. Well, maybe we'll talk about it more when we review the show. But
yeah, I need to pick up the Fallout games again. So
seems like everyone else is. I saw that
for sure.
76. Did it go to very positive?
I don't know. I know Fallout 4 has gotten a huge resurgence. I'm of the opinion that Fallout 4 was always a pretty solid game. I know a lot of the hardcore Fallout fans will disagree with that. But I sunk so many hours into that game. 76, I have a personal vendetta against, so I have not tried that since launch when I couldn't refund the game and I kept falling through the floor.
Yeah.
But maybe, I'm sure it's gotten better. I think it followed the game formula of releasing a not done game and then eventually fixing it 3 years after.
Yeah, I still don't know if it's any good. Like I know they did like the Fallout 1 thing where it's like you have to pay a subscription to have a private session. I was like,
Yeah,
that's weird. I don't know if that's
that's
still a
stupid.
thing. I know they still like microtransaction it to like hell, even though it's a $40 game.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
no NPC things was a huge turnoff. You're basically all you do in that game is follow dead people and never see anybody.
that's so weird. Why? Why? That's just like that's a weird decision for like a
I
role
think they,
playing game.
yeah, because they wanted to make it massively multiplayer, so you build
Mm.
your own kind of like, you see other people and do like interactions and stuff like that. But like, I don't think gaming was in the place to do that. I feel like that was past that time.
Yeah, that sounds like more of like a 2000s MMO thing.
Yeah, like
Um,
when Xbox 360 was really popping
mm,
and people
yeah,
actually interacted with each other and didn't want to just go private lobbies with their friends. Like,
right. Yeah, there's man, the MMOs of that age, I wish I could go back. I wish I was like
mm,
10 years older because like one of the ones I've always like wanted to go back and try is there's this like Star Wars one that like for some reason was like it was almost like an immersive sim or something where like uh most people were just like farmers and merchants and there was like one Jedi and it took like not gonna like a year of like training and like money like in-game money, but it all had like this simulated economy and I'm like, what, where did all that go? Why is everything so boring now? I don't know. I yearn.
market research.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I guess I could play Eve Online if I wanted a simulated economy. But I also don't want to drop $15,000 on a spaceship. So I'm not going to be playing Eve Online. But speaking of games that I did play, I did finish Resident Evil 7. I'm a very brave boy. I can put a badge on my backpack now or something. Um, so, yeah, I'll briefly talk about it because I don't think I have a whole lot to say. It's very good. It just has a doozy of an opening, and I think that's kind of where I left it uh, last week because really, like, there's four, like, it's like five zones, and then there's like an outro zone. Um, but the first two are rough because that's like when you're in the house. And when you're in the house, it's really bad. But then you go out of the house and you're outside, and you would think, well, it's nighttime and it's outside. That might make it more scary. But to me, it made it less scary because it was always kind of safe outside because the people weren't there. So yeah, it was a little better. But once you go outside, first you have to go down to the bayou, and then the mom is like, her thing is that she controls bugs. So there's a bunch of like bugs that'll come get you and jump off the walls and spook you. Um, but after that, it's pretty. I don't know. It's not as scary as soon as you get the shotgun. It's like, oh, okay, things are way more manageable now. I feel like I can defend myself a little bit. Um, but yeah, I thought the story was fine. I don't think the story of any of these games really matter. Um, but it's just for the experience really. So I don't know. It's hard to recommend it because it is so hard to get into. It is like it's probably the scariest game I've ever played, which isn't really saying a lot. I think maybe before this was Half-Life 2. There's a very scary section in Half-Life 2. I actually haven't played it since like high school, but I remember the one spooky zone where it's like nighttime and there's a bunch of zombies. And then that's where they introduce the running zombies in that game, and those things are terrifying. So, yeah. Play Resident Evil 7 if you want to, if you can take it. But I'm not going to be, I'm not going to turn my nose up if someone's like, I just can't, because that would have been me, like, before I started. I really forced myself to do it because I decided to play all of them for some reason. Um, so yeah, very good. Um, I'm playing Resident Evil 2 now. I've done one of their stories, so that one is also pretty good. I like that they embodied the like ever following snail thing with the big guy with the funny hat that you can shoot off. You actually get an achievement for shooting the big guy's hat off, which I don't know why that's an achievement. But um, yeah, because that guy's just like constantly following you, especially on your second playthrough, and you just hear his footsteps. They're really like loud, and especially if you're playing with headphones, it kind of makes it even more scary because you can tell where he's coming from, and it just gets louder and louder and louder. Um, but you can outrun him and lose the trail, but that just makes it even more scary to like go exploring because you never know when you turn the corner he might just be there and then just start power walking towards you. It's very well done, but man, it I really don't like that guy. uh, but yeah, I think Resident Evil 2 is pretty good. I have not played the original, just playing the remake, and I think that's okay. Mainly because I don't know where I'm gonna find an original copy of Resident Evil 2 for the GameCube. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but GameCube games are pretty rare in my experience. Every vintage video game store I go into has like 5 tops. So I don't know why. I guess, is that Nintendo's worst selling console? I think it might be. Other than the Wii U? Ooh, that's a good question. What's a worse seller, the Wii U or the GameCube?
Probably the Wii. Mm. I feel like the Wii U should be, but I feel like it's the GameCube realistically.
Well, GameCube was the competitor to the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. I don't even think the GameCube is that bad.
No.
It's just like,
I never had one, but
yeah, I didn't until right now. Let me see. GameCube, not hardware. Why am I putting the sales in perspective and then they're doing it by soft? Oh, okay. Hardware. The GameCube sold 13,940 up until 2003, which I guess when they officially discontinued it. Whereas the Wii U sold 9,000. So the Wii U is less successful than the GameCube in a time where there was more gamers. So sorry, Nintendo. Sorry to spit on your wounds. You really just caught a stray for no reason. But sometimes it goes like that. But that's it for gaming. I will continue my Resident Evil quest until I have played all of them, even the bad ones, like Resident Evil 6. I don't know why people don't like that one. I will report back why I don't like it, or maybe why I do like it. Who knows? I don't. Sometimes with music, I like bad music. Sometimes with movies, I like bad movies. I don't tend to like bad games in general. Garfield Kart was one of my least favorite gaming experiences I've ever had. That made me very frustrated and angry. Even the second one wasn't that much better, which was shocking because everybody loves the second Garfield Kart, especially Bill Murray. Speaking of, are you going to see the Garfield movie?
No.
What? Why not?
Chris Pratt being Garfield hurts me on like a cosmic level.
Well, okay, yeah, I just I didn't think about that until right now. I forgot he was Garfield. Wow.
Just rubs me the wrong way.
Do you think that's why there was a fight that broke out in the first screening of the Garfield movie?
I could see it. I could see it.
I don't I don't know why. That video was really going around, it was making rounds. It was like, hey, everybody, look, two people started fighting at Garfield, which I granted is a funny sentence. But I don't get it. Maybe I should have done some more research because I knew we were going to be talking about this on the podcast. But I won't spread any more misinformation, so we'll return to your regularly scheduled programming. I watched two movies this week. I was originally going to do a bit where I was going to say this week is all about family and then talk about a bunch of family dramas. I was going to do a Fast and Furious thing. It was going to be hilarious. But then, I kind of ran out of time. I was going to watch Minari today. I watched like the first 30 minutes and then my mom texted me and was like, hey, let's go out to dinner. And I'm like, okay. And then we did. And then I have like 40 minutes left. And I was like, oh, I have to start the podcast. So I haven't finished it. So I've only seen one family movie. So it's no longer a family theme. Today we're just talking about two random movies that I saw. One of them just so happens to be a weepy family melodrama. The other one is not. So there's a lot of preface to say that we're going to be talking about the film The Return and Lake Michigan Monster. I'll let you decide which one is the weepy family melodrama because both have themes of familial relations. But let me just pull up The Return right now because I need to remind myself the characters' names. Because it's a Russian film. I should maybe say that off the bat. Made in 2003. It was very well received at the time. And this is the first Russian movie I've ever seen. I think. Yeah. I feel like there isn't a very big Russian film scene in general. There was before the Soviet Revolution, like when film was like just starting. There was a really big Russian film scene, and in fact, one of the first film theories, schools of film theory, I guess you could say, is Marxist film theory. Which I guess isn't technically Russian, it's German, but then Russia would become communist, whatever. So, yeah, and then eventually, I think there was, like, while the Soviet Union was a thing, it started becoming a thing. I don't know a whole lot about.
I'm more of a fan of Kim Il Sung movie thought.
Yeah, was the North Korean government a better filmmaker?
I think it was more interesting. I think the
Okay.
Soviets put out a lot better films, but
Okay. I
it's
could see.
fascinating. The Kim Il Sung, like he wrote multiple books on film theory.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I don't know. I know there's like a bunch of like categories of film theory. I don't know them off the top of my head. I just know that Marxist is one of the first ones, if not the first one. Just in that in like the early
Instead of
days of film, it's like uh, lower class people kind of working together against, you know, a oppressive bourgeois overlord. That kind of falls into the Marxist film theory, and that was a big thing in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So why am I talking about this? Talking about a movie called The Return that came out 100 years after the fact. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. But just briefly, what The Return is about. It's about two kids, Andre and Ivan, which makes it easy because they're like the most stereotypical Russian names ever. They live with their mom in somewhere in Russia, and the dad is out of the picture. I think they live with their mom and grandma, even though the grandma is not a part of the story at all. I think the dad has been gone for like 12 years, and then just suddenly out of nowhere, the dad shows up, and he doesn't have a reason for where he was. He doesn't really have a reason for why he came back, or at least we don't know what it is. Because basically the kids are kind of the eyes. That's our perspective. Is we're following the kids. It's really their story, and basically they're like out playing. They get in a fight, and so then they both run. They're running to get their mom because they're both fighting. And then when they get back, their mom is like smoking on the porch and being like, "Hey, stop yelling! Your dad is sleeping." And they're like, "What? What do you mean? We don't have a dad. He isn't here." And wouldn't you know it, he's just taken a snooze. So there's probably a story there, but throughout the entirety of the movie, we never know where he was, what he was doing. He's kind of sketchy, honestly. Like he comes into town on just randomly, and then he's like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna be going on a trip. Just us. Your mom's not coming, your grandma's not coming. It's just gonna be me and my sons, and we're gonna go fishing." And I think Ivan is the younger one, and Ivan loves fishing. He's a real a babby self-insert, I guess you could say,
True.
because he loves fishing. That's really all he's interested in. He doesn't really care that his dad is back. Um, he's just about the fishing lifestyle. And so he's kind of more excited to go fishing than anything else. And then the older brother's like, huh, I want to be a daddy's boy. So he's kind of, he's sucking up to dad. And that's kind of the dynamic. I don't know if that's really accurate to say, because there's a lot of tension between Ivan and the dad, because, I think Ivan is around like 12 or 13. So his dad was gone for 12 years. He's never known this guy. And this guy is acting shady. Because, like, the whole time they're out on trips, he just, like, disappears for hours at a time and then comes back. They, like, go to a port at one point, and he's, like, talking to dock workers, and then he, like, unloads something, and then we never know what that's all about. And it's just like, okay. And like sometimes his parenting methods are a little bit sketchy also. I don't think, oh, I was about to say I don't think he ever hits his kid, but he definitely does, both of them multiple times. um, I'll say it, not a good dad. So that's really the crux of it, is that they're going on this trip. um, one of the kid wants to fish. They like the first night they go to like this spot, and the kids are fishing. And then they wake up the next night, and the dad's like, "We have to go. We're driving to an island." And the kid's like, "Nah, why are we going there to fish? We could just fish here." And then the dad's like, "No, you stupid idiot. We're going to an island." But wouldn't you know it, that would be the worst mistake he ever made in his whole life. Because they get to the island. This is like the setup for a horror movie, but it doesn't turn into like, and there were zombies there, or there was a big muck monster. Unfortunately, because that would be a better movie, I think, in my opinion. No, it's just like they go to this like deserted island. I don't know why the dad wants to go there. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this movie, because like I both think it's kind of clever that they hide um all of his intentions and all of the his backstory. Like we really don't know anything about this guy, and since we're like uh, seeing it through the perspective of the kids who have never known him, and I assume the mom doesn't talk about him a whole lot. I think hiding it from the audience is a good way to put us in the shoes of our main characters, but also it's kind of frustrating because I want to know more about this guy. This guy is a mystery, and we never learn anything about him because spoilers for a small indie Russian movie from 20 years ago. Once they get to the island, there's this big watchtower, and he takes the older son up, and it's established that the younger son doesn't like heights. He's more interested in staying at sea level because that's where the bass are. I don't know. I doubt there's bass in like Russia, northern Russia.
Russian bass.
The Russian bass, the famed Russian bass. So he wants to stay seaside, but you know, because the kid loves fishing so much, one day they're like, "Hey, Dad, me and my brother want to go fishing," and the dad's like, "Okay, be back at 3:30." And so they go out, and they're like, "Oh, the fish are just biting, and it's 3:15. We should probably head back, or else Dad will be upset." And then the younger boy's like, "I want to keep fishing. I love fishing so much."
A grind.
I know. So they end up fishing more because that kid just loves to fish. And he's like, "Don't worry. When we show Dad the beast that we've caught, he'll be more impressed than angry." And then they come back with like a 4-inch little, like a minnow. It's like the smallest thing I've ever seen. And they're like, "Hey, Dad, we caught this." And rightfully so. The dad starts smacking around the older kid because he's like, "What a disgrace. You didn't even bring back a huge mackerel.
Call yourself a fisherman.
You call yourself a fisherman. You fuck up." Yeah, that's kind of... I don't think he's mad at him because the fish. He was like, "I gave you a watch so you would know what time it is. And you didn't get back here on time." And the worst thing about this dad is that he doesn't even eat fish. And we don't even know why he doesn't eat fish. He's like, "I ate too much of it one time, so now I don't eat fish." And, that breaks the younger kid's heart because that's all he cares about is fish. And so he starts beating the older kid. I don't know if beating is the right word because he's just like slapping him. So I don't even know if it would leave a mark. It's not especially hard. I mean, like, I think at one point maybe the kid like stumbles and falls back a little bit. And yeah, and then the younger kid like starts freaking out. He grabs a knife and is like, "I'm gonna kill you, Dad." And then Dad's like, "No, don't do that." And then the kid just drops the knife and runs to the watchtower all the way up to the tippy top. And then he closes the hatch to the ladder that would lead right up to the tippy top. And so then the dad, like a rational person on this flimsy, rusty watchtower, starts climbing on the outside of it to get to the top. I don't know what his plan was. If he was like so mad at his son that he was gonna beat him on top of this watchtower, or if he was gonna throw him off or something. But luckily, we never find out because the dad takes a little bit of a tumble, falls off, and dies. And you'd think that would be the end of the movie. And I thought it was the end of the movie because I pressed up on the remote to see how much time was left, and there was a half an hour left. I'm like, what the hell? What more is there gonna happen? And here, I'll take back everything I ever said about this movie being clever because it's so self-indulgent at this point where it's like, you ever like seen a movie where like someone dies and you're like, I wonder how they got out of that situation? Where it's like, did they like bring the body back? Where like usually, someone dies, then it like cuts to the funeral or whatever. There's a lot of stuff we don't see because it's not interesting and nobody cares. Well, that's where this movie's different because it takes a lot of time to show the kids dragging the dad's body from the watchtower to the boat, loading up the boat, and then rowing the boat back to shore, loading the dead body into the back of the dad's car, and them driving away. And that's when the movie ends. I don't I don't know whose decision that was because it was the most boring half an hour I've ever had, I think, in a movie ever, which is kind of a shame because it sets up everything especially well. And I think if the dad didn't take a tumble, which I mean he probably should have. I mean, he was beating his kids. Um, but like there could have been an interesting moment where the son and the dad have a real heart to heart, really put everything on the table. But because this is an art movie, we never get any closure to anything. And it's just like, this sucks. Why would I care about this? Like, I guess it's a movie about family, and that's what's so important about it. Or so what's the Carrie Fisher line that she said about Last Jedi? It's like it's a film about family, and that's what's so I don't remember. It's some adjective.
Bad.
I don't think she was saying that. She was there to promote the movie. But it's like a famous line that people make fun of. Where it's like, and it's a film about family, and that's what's so important about it. Maybe that's it. I think that
Dominic Toretto says.
I know. I know. That kind of brings it back to the Fast and Furious thing that I was gonna try to do. And it would have been good, because that's what this movie's about, is family. And how to bring a dead family member back to mainland Russia. So, if you're ever curious how you would get out of that sticky situation when you were 12 years old, maybe this is a movie for you.
I've been there.
I know. If you ever wondered, what if one time I was out fishing with my dad in a secluded remote island off the coast of Russia and he took a tumble and died? What would I do? Well, this movie might give you some closure to that question that you've been asking yourself for many years. So, suffice to say, my first Russian movie was not quite my cup of tea, but it was fine.
We'll do some good ones for the future.
I own a copy of Come and See. I don't know if I think that's technically Belarusian. Or at least it's
same thing.
set in
The culture was all the same at that point.
Yes, it was in the Soviet era where there was all one nation, but I think it takes place in Belarus in World War II. I think as the Nazis are pulling out of Russia, all those raids they were doing, or not raids, like sieges, and they were pulling back and like they're decimating local villages in their wake. That's where that movie takes place and why it's so sad, because I'm pretty sure it's about this young guy whose entire life gets destroyed by Nazis.
Yeah, if I want to see any World War II movie, I want to see it from the Soviet perspective, made by someone who lives in that area.
Well, that would be the movie for you. And it is the highest rated movie on Letterboxd and has been forever.
I want to do some Tarkovsky stuff, so I think that'd be a good one to do.
Is that Tarkovsky?
I thought it was. Maybe it's not. But there are some Tarkovsky films that I would like to do.
We could do it. The Come and See is Elim Klimov.
Oh, okay.
I don't know this man. I don't know any of his other movies. Yeah, I feel like I want to do more Soviet movies, but I just shouldn't have done a Russian art movie. Because I don't think my problem with it is that it's Russian. I think my problem with it is that it's an art movie, and I hate those. So
it's not the xenophobia, it's the artsiness.
No, it's not. I love a lot of, different movies from different places. It's just, yeah. I wouldn't like this movie if it was set in America or if it was made by Americans.
Yeah.
But whatever. I will say, this Elim Klimov guy, I'm looking at pictures of him. He looks exactly like Carl Sagan. And that's kind of throwing me for a loop. But yeah, I don't think I've seen any Tarkovsky. I don't even know how to spell his name. Oh, there we go.
That one's a
Oh
pretty
yeah,
easy spelling.
Stalker.
But I think he's got like Stalker and Solaris or
Yep,
something.
yep. And the Mirror.
The Mirror.
I think like all of these are on. Oh, well, they're on Max.
Oh,
So
perfect.
wouldn't you know it's super accessible. Um, oh, this is like dystopia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, let's do it at some point. Um, yeah, so that was the family movie I saw this week. Another movie I saw that has family elements is Lake Michigan Monster. I watched this movie because last week, or the week, I think it was last week, I talked about Hundreds of Beavers, a great comedy film that is in theaters right now. I'm going to plug it again because I think everybody should see this. It's my movie of the year so far. Very good. If it isn't coming to a theater near you, which I know it isn't to a lot of places, like it's only hitting bigger cities, and some of that it's like spotty whether or not your bigger city is even going to get it. I honestly can't believe my city got it. Um, which I mean, props to local art house theaters. Gotta plug those. Um, but I was like, I love that movie so much. I want to see what they made before. And so luckily it was free on Prime. And so I'm like, yo, I'll check this out. I would love to have another quirky comedy in my life. And so I watched it, and it's not as good. And frankly, it doesn't even come close. Um, I will say a lot of the like style stuff is there, and you can tell that like they really took everything that didn't work from Lake Michigan Monster and like pitched it, and everything that did work and just made that an entire movie. And that's what Hundreds of Beavers is, which is so impressive because this is Hundreds of Beavers is their second movie. So to like have all of those like lessons and learn a bunch from your first movie um, is really impressive. So I'm like super into like following these guys around because I think it's just a couple of guys from Milwaukee that are making these movies. Um, Mike Cheslick is the director, and the guy who's starring is in both of them too. Where's that guy? Jeez. Is it Gene Kayak? Oh, it is. Oh, yeah, this guy has four names. It's Ryland Brixlin Cole Twos.
What a man.
I know. And he's also like shredded. So it's kind of funny. He's a great performer, but I think, okay, so I'll go into what this movie is because I was kind of taken off guard and I kind of knew what I was getting into because I had seen Hundreds of Beavers before. But, like the opening of Up, where it has like a parody of like old radio broadcasts, slash like old news segments that would play before movies. Um, if that was an entire movie, that's what Lake Michigan Monster is. And it has its charm. I mean, it's like you can tell that's what they're going for. It's in 4:3. It's black and white. It's like really grainy. Like they turned ISO all the way up, I think, because I doubt they're shooting on film. Um, but yeah, it's just like this like really corny movie. I think it might be set in modern times, but which is kind of weird. I'll say that because like it's just like very tonally that doesn't make any sense, because it's like they have like phones and stuff, and it's like clearly going for something like antique or vintage. Um, but it's kind of reminded me of the hit Wes Anderson movie The Life Aquatic, because in that movie Bill Murray's like friend gets killed by a fish, and he's like, I'm going to take a picture of this fish. I'm going to film it for my documentary because he's a documentarian. This movie is kind of similar to that because it's some guy and his dad gets killed by a sea monster. So he recruits four people. No, he recruits three people to join his team, and it's a crack team of specialists, and they're going to track down and kill the monster. So that's the premise of the film. It's only 78 minutes, so it's really short. But I think the funniest thing about this movie is the names. They took a page out of our book, where it's just like normal-ish first name and then like weird last name. There's like Nedge Pepsi. I That's probably just my favorite name in general. I like Nedge
That is pretty
Pepsi.
good.
There's also Sean Shaughnessy.
Ooh.
That's a good one. And the main guy insists on calling him Sean Shaughnessy every single time, even though he doesn't call everyone else by their first and last names. I think they just knew they struck gold with that one. And then the other one is kind of weak. It's Dick Flynn. It's a pretty good name in general, but it
Still
just,
good, but like, you know.
yeah, not as funny. And then I don't even know. I think that guy has a name, but for some reason it isn't listed. Um, so, oh, it's Seafield, and he's a captain. But I will say, like, I think the humor is just a little bit weaker in general on this one. They tend to go for more like, um, I don't know. I think to me in comedy, I think I'm just done with like sex jokes in general. It has to be like really clever. And when you call an operation to catch a sea monster with bait and you call it Operation Masturbator, like that's been done 2,000 times before. I've seen this all over the place. Uh, yeah, it just kind of
You gotta do the
lacks.
reverse. You gotta make it super clunky so it's obvious that they tried to do it and then didn't. You gotta
That's
reverse
true.
psychology that thing.
They did do something like that, man, because they did like Masturbator, and then it was like they're trying to to like they like get an egg of the monster at one point, and then like Ned Pepsi throws out, this operation's going to be called execution, and then Seafield is like, no, that's too obvious, we're going to say, excuse me, can I kill you now, or something like that. Like that's kind of what you're going for. It's like too
Yeah.
clunky, and that's kind of funny, but I don't know. Just in general, like I think the writing is a little weaker, which is funny because there's no dialogue in Hundreds of Beavers. It's all just that Looney Tunes style where you can still kind of tell what the story is. Not that there's really a story in Looney Tunes cartoons, but you know what I'm talking about. Um, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, honestly. Um, which is weird because I looked at the like letterbox. I went to log it, and like it's like really high. I mean, it's at like a 3.6 with most people giving it 4 stars. And I'm like, okay, I guess. If I saw this movie before I saw Hundreds of Beavers, I think I would have definitely rated it higher. But now that I've seen like that movie, and it's arguably one of the best comedy movies I've ever seen, um, yeah, it just kind of falls flat. So yeah, I would say maybe watch. No, I will say no. Just go straight to Hundreds of Beavers. I don't. I don't think you're missing out on a whole lot by going backwards like I did. So yeah, check it out. Um, if it isn't coming to a theater near you, it's on some stuff to rent on places, and it isn't like super high. It isn't like $20 to rent like it is when you watch a movie that's in theaters, like a mainstream movie that's in theaters. I think it might be like $5, which is still higher than normal, but support independent filmmaking. Um, and especially, you got to support Midwest filmmaking because there's not a whole lot of stuff being made out here. They call it the flyover zone for a reason. It's because we aren't making movies. Everywhere else is making movies except for here. So, there we go. We have this in Space Cop, the Red Letter Media movie, which is also in Milwaukee. I guess Milwaukee is the film capital of the Midwest.
I suppose.
I suppose. But I think that's pretty much it for all I have. I'm going to throw it on over to Babby for his segment, which I'm sure is going to be lengthy.
Yep. And I am brain dead today and overworked and tired, and I did not prepare anything for this. So this should be a really fun experience to listen to.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, I'm actually going to skip the entire music segment today and just talk about the one thing. We will save any other music for next week.
Fair enough.
Because I feel like, I don't know. I'm not going to go through all that because it will break my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing this for the past month, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Starting with Like That, and then the eventual J. Cole response, and then unresponse, and then the first Drake's response, and the whole timeline. So we're not going to go through the beginning of everything because that's going to be talked about in the earlier episodes. So
Yeah.
look at those. Everybody knows what's going on anyways, I feel like.
Yeah.
If you want a whole explainer video, I'm sure there's other resources for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. But last week we left off, I think Euphoria came out the day we recorded.
Day of the podcast.
Yes.
So I did talk about Euphoria, but I did not completely have enough time with that song.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we get going here, because I think Euphoria is showing itself to be better and better as we go. Okay, so last time we ended, it was Euphoria. It was Tuesday.
Correct.
I'm gonna do timestamps here. Tuesday the 30th. Then it was pretty silent for 3 days. Euphoria topped the charts, I believed.
Yeah.
It was put on Spotify same day. And I think it's still number one as of now. It might get topped by another one. If not, it already has.
I think it did.
Yeah. But I think everybody was expecting a Drake response to that. I think historically we need to look at beefs too and think about how long timelines are with these things, because usually it does not go this quick. The beef as of so far at the point of Euphoria dropping was pretty on pace to how they usually go. It usually takes a couple weeks, and it's a little bit of a more back and forth situation. This one, the way it played out was very new. And I think it's only something that could happen in the internet age and with all the weird stuff happening. So because of that, we got a second Kendrick song before we got a Drake response. Friday morning, Kendrick posted 616 in LA on Instagram Reels. That's it. I remember seeing this on my timeline. I think it was getting ready for a work meeting, and this popped up, and my brain just kind of escaped itself because I couldn't listen to it for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so 616 in LA. First off, with this one, we have the cover art of a mysterious looking glove, a Maybach glove, cropped in a kind of 9x16 portrait style because of Instagram. I didn't really think anything of this. People were making wild speculations of this when the song came out. And this track didn't really sound like a diss track for the first half of it. It's a pretty normal Kendrick song for about half of it. And I mean, it's a good one. I think the beat on here is really nice. It's so weird because this one is Soundwave, which is does a lot of Kendrick stuff. But Jack Antonoff has credit on this song.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really weird. I think people have made the connection that this song is literally tailor made, which is kind of funny.
Oh.
Um, but I don't know where the Jack Antonoff bits actually are in here. I'm wondering if he did a sample or anything with this. I know there's an Al Green vocal sample in here, and this Al Green sample. For those who don't know, Drake's uncle was a soul musician, and I was actually the guitarist in Al Green's band. So Drake's uncle is literally playing guitar on this sample that he uses, um, which is
Wow.
just a little wild. Um, but the song takes a while to get going. We're kind of doing. He's he does a good job of like ramping these things up. He doesn't dive right in most of the time, but pretty good beat. I love the kind of old soul sample flip. It felt fresh. It felt nice. Um, and then about halfway through the track, we switch up and we get going. I think the main points in this track was that Kendrick has someone allegedly on the inside on OVO giving him information,
Ooh.
um, and that I think he's trying to make Drake a little paranoid about like who's around you. Um, Everybody in your team hates you. You're paranoid. I think the Can't Tusi slide up out of this one was fantastic. That
Yeah.
was just funny. Every dog gotta have its day. Now live in your purpose was great. 100 people on your salary and 20 of them want you as a casualty, and one of them is actually right next to you. I think that was great. Calling out the Twitter bots that Drake uses. If
Hmm.
anybody was around during the Pusha T beef, I think Drake or OVO definitely bought Twitter bots because there was a weird phenomenon of really random weird tweets about Pusha T that would just like come out of nowhere and just spread like wildfire, and they were like nonsensical ones too.
Mm.
So bringing that back up again, telling him that he's hiding behind memes and not actually like responding to things on record like diss tracks and beefs typically go. I think the last lines on here are great too. It's time that you look around on who's around you before you figure out that you're alone. Ask what Mike would do.
Hmm.
Fantastic. Bringing Michael Jackson further into this, and I think the whole Michael Jackson kind of motif he's been working with this whole time has gotten deeper and deeper and deeper to a point where it's like you're outclassed just from that sequence of things that he uses here.
Yeah.
But there's so many layers to this line. I know there's a Michael Jackson single called "You Are Not Alone."
Yep.
He references that in that line. He is responding to push-ups because Drake said he wanted quintuple entendres or whatever from Kendrick. But yeah, this was just a little one that he dropped on Instagram Live right away in the morning. And then people started speculating about the glove, about who's the rat in the OVO camp, and all this.
Yeah.
I was glued to all of this for the whole weekend, and it was probably bad for my mental well-being.
Yeah, me too.
But it is definitely like I don't know. This is what prime WWE felt like. It's just like it's the most over the top soap opera ever made, except this one is just real life,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. Um, so that happens, and then it's pretty silent for the rest of the day, and then there's some rumblings because why can't you just drop a song like normal? I think Drake has some streamers and academics and everything start teasing that he's going to be dropping something, and then Family Matters comes out. I believe around 9:30 or 10 at night.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready for bed and I saw it and I'm like, all right, here we go. And we got an accompanying music video with this one,
It is.
which impressive to pull out a music video in the short amount of time that you've had to do this. In the video, he buys a replica of the Good Kid, Mad City van and crushes it, which I think is really funny. um, he shows up in the New Ho King restaurant that has been mentioned by Kendrick on Euphoria.
Hmm.
I didn't talk about that whole sequence of events last time because I think people were still figuring out what that line even meant at that point. But I think the song is it's like 6.5 minutes. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of long tracks in this back and forth. Yeah, it's 7.5 minutes actually. which for a Drake song is very not usual. I think there's 3 beat switches on this, just like Euphoria.
Yeah.
And I think the song overall is pretty good. I definitely have some issues with it, and it's a little clunky. I feel like Drake doesn't do a lot of beat switches in his music, and you can kind of tell it feels like 3 separate kind of tracks placed together. It didn't have the flow that Euphoria did with the 3 different beats. Um, but I think the beat was hard. I think Drake's energy here is something that we haven't really heard from him a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely better than Push Ups. I think Push Ups, everybody looking back at it now, I think Push Ups definitely was not really that good. Um, I mean, it was a decent response, but like it's one of those that kind of just starts stuff. It doesn't. I don't think people are going to look back at Push Ups and really get anything from it. I think Family Matters is just in general a lot better. Um, Main things about this song, he immediately he immediately addresses Kendrick not liking that he says the N word by jokingly making it the first word of the song and including a sample of his mom saying that you shouldn't start the word saying or the song saying that word.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was funny. Bringing back the drop chorus from Push Ups. Again, catchy chorus. Aged really poorly, but I think it's a really catchy chorus, and that's what Drake does well. Um, First verse, kind of, I don't know, it didn't really land that well. Um, Kind of like doing this fake street cred thing again. Um, Going at Metro, going at these other people's. I think the main issue I have with this track is that he's still going at other people when this is
Yeah.
clearly just a one-on-one now, and I think that was part of him keeping one toe out to not fully commit. Um, I think it was really weird that he kept like a lot of his disses towards other people were better than the disses he had for Kendrick, which is really weird because like he should be your number one target, and I don't like that you're even giving any time to anybody else because they've stayed
Right.
silent as soon as Kendrick responded. I think everybody realized once that happened, it was just going to be a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think one of the worst lines on this track is always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. You just acting like an activist. It's make believe. Not helping your image, Drake, by saying that. Yeah, not great. That's gonna come back and bite him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He says you don't go back to your hood and plant no money trees, which is not
It's
true.
just
I
not
think
true.
Kendrick has given multiple tens of thousands of dollars to Compton School District's arts programs and other things. He talks about this on TPAB and talks about how he didn't want it to be public, but people made it public.
Yeah.
Um, then he talks about that he messes with all types of women, black or white, and calls him the Black Messiah, wifing up a mixed queen. I think again, not getting Kendrick's point of Euphoria, not saying that he's not black, but saying that he puts blackness on as a persona to try to make himself like look tough or get into an in group that he's not in, instead of just being his true self. That was a lot of Euphoria's kind of character breakdown, was that like he surrounds himself with all these people to make him look a certain way, when in reality he, if he was just true to himself as an artist, there would be no issues here.
Yeah.
um, there's some Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston wordplay again. I feel like he's been doing this for a lot. Obviously the Whitney Houston and Whitney Kendrick's uh, partner, former partner, we don't know that. But yeah, obviously that there. um, this whole thing about I still don't understand the whole Dave Free is the father of one of Kendrick's children. I don't know where that came out from, and I feel like that is just really, that came out of nowhere. I don't think it had the effect that Drake was hoping it was going to have. That wasn't really a bombshell. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. That doesn't really make any sense. I think this whole thing of like him trying to be like Whitney is out cheating on you, um, which I don't know how they would get that info at all.
Yeah.
Um, and the chorus is pretty disrespectful on this. This is where it starts getting nasty. Um, and it's going to get even more nasty as we keep going here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Went back to the drop chorus, and then this part two keeps going, and then we get a little bit more intense here. Um, but again, he goes more at like Rocky and Rick Ross and The Weeknd and
Yeah.
Future and Metro, and it's like, stay focused, please. Like, don't make the don't make the song 7.5 minutes if you're gonna do this in the middle, because like I got so out of it at this point. I'm like, you're not doing direct shots back at him. If this is really the best you have, you're not doing a great job. Um, Although I will say the stuff he had on Rocky was really good. I really, really liked the angle he took with that. It's just like I don't need that in this song.
Right.
Um, yeah. Let's see. There's so many lines here that I need to get. Um, I'm trying to find the Rocky lines that I really liked. Um, I can't find them, but they were really good. Um, and then we switched to the part three. I think beat switches again. He has a really nice flow in this last part that I think was really great. This is like what you want from Prime Drake. Really catchy flow. Nothing too crazy, but it's like infectious. Um, I do love that Kendrick just opened his mouth. Someone go hand him a Grammy right now. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, that
It's a
was really
common
good.
criticism of Kendrick, but it's just funny. These are the kind of jabs you want to take at each other. In like a traditional '90s rap battle, this is how a lot of this kind of stuff went. Um, I think the "Where's your uncle at? Because I want to talk to the man of the house" is probably a reference to Anti Diaries,
Yeah, I think so.
um, which again I'll take it. Clever. Um, the whole Pharrell thing. Drake was talking about melting a chain that Pharrell gave him, because Drake was mad that Pharrell got the top spot as a designer after Virgil's passing. Um, and he said that he melted down his chain, but in the video you can see the chain not melted down. I don't know why he included that, because that goes against something he said earlier. Um,
Yeah.
I don't understand that. He denies that the cease and desist thing about the Like That song being X'd out for radio play, even though there has been receipts that have come out about that since. Um, said he called the said Kendrick called the Tupac estate and begged them to sue me and get that tailor made freestyle down. Don't think that's true
I
either.
don't think so.
Um, he said your daddy got robbed by Top, which we know because Duckworth is literally about that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like Drake was just skimming through Kendrick's catalog trying to find stuff here. There were some like really like tight jabs at him, but I think he's not using the space as well as he could. Um, he brings up the 20v1, 1v20 thing again, which again, you were making it a 1v20 by keep referencing these people. It's obviously not. It's not.
Yeah.
He says you write about F the big three. It's only Big D and there's video proof. That's funny. I don't know if it needs to be here, but it's funny
I don't
about
think
the
so.
leaked Drake video. I really don't think it needs to be here. And if I'm in a rap battle with you, I don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Um, what else do we got here? He brings up that Kendrick moved to New York and got a penthouse there. How he proposed to Whitney in 2015, but still hasn't married her. Um, Talking about how he has some, dirt on him, bringing up the Prince and Mike Jackson and saying maybe I'm Prince and you're actually Michael Jackson, um, meaning that like I don't know, he'll outperform him. I guess I don't know.
I
Um,
don't think Prince ever outperformed
I
Michael
don't I don't
Jackson.
think so either. I don't know what the whole thing was about that.
I don't know.
Um, Yeah. So basically, the whole setup here leading to the end is that he alleged that Kendrick beat his wife and then hired a crisis management team to clean it up and make sure it didn't go public. I think that was his red button. He said it wasn't, but I believe it was after the events that have followed this.
Hmm.
Um, which Okay, wh- I will say the after the Pusha T story I've added on, I feel like rap beef has changed into more of a spectacle of like trying to get dirt on people and like revealing things to the public. It never really used to be that way, and I feel like it's getting a lot more focused on that now because people were just fishing to see like who's gonna drop like a bomb first.
Mm.
Um, and I think Drake definitely has this kind of attitude because he puts that like the last line of the song and then ends it. I
Yeah.
feel like doing a big setup like this is not as effective as if you like mention it earlier and loop it into your song more. Um, I feel like just doing this weird bombshell and dropping the mic, it doesn't cut as deep as it could have. Um, but overall, I think it's a really great diss record. I think it's catchy. It has the switches. It has an energy from Drake that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't even think he had this energy with the Pusha T beef when that was happening either. Um, but yeah, I think it was a very valiant effort. I feel like there was something about I wanted to see where that one line is. Something about how he's short. So the only funny short bar that I liked from this thing, um, I'm trying to find it, but it was something about how is it self defense
Oh yeah.
when when you beat up on your girl because she's bigger than you or something. Um, that was kind of funny. I'll give you that. But yeah, pretty good overall. I think this was a good response. But 20 minutes later,
Yeah.
20 minutes later, Kendrick Lamar posts on YouTube "Meet the Grams," which is a 6.5 minute song. Um, so this is not humanly possible. You cannot record and mix and master and never like you can't upload a video and get that checked in time to do it with that time limit. Um, so what this means is that 616 in LA was a legit warning shot saying, I know what you're gonna do. And when he dropped, Kendrick already heard the song, he knew everything about it, and he just hit public on the YouTube video and it was there.
Yeah.
Um, And what we get here is the unzoomed image of the Maybach glove, which shows Drake's medications, Drake's receipts to jewelry, and this really weird shirt. Um, Pretty much confirming that he has receipts from the OVO camp, considering these are all Drake's personal belongings. Um, so, meet the Grams. This was I should just say this is the wildest moment I think I've ever witnessed when it
Yeah.
comes to any of this. Like even being around during the Pusha T Drake beef, I think this was pretty much on that level. Um, it the craziness of me laying in bed and just finishing the Drake music video and be like, "Ooh, Kendrick's kind of on the back foot. He actually has to like come back with something now."
Yeah.
And just Twitter blowing up and streamers reacting and all of this craziness happening. And then all of a sudden Kendrick drops and everybody's like, "What on earth?" Um, so go back to YouTube, search it up. There it is, and we get an Alchemist beat,
Mm-hmm.
um, and nasty Alchemist beat. Apparently, Alchemist said he sent this a while ago, and I think this is the perfect time to deploy it. Because how do you even make a song that's not like this with that beat? That beat is sinister.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So this is the most disrespectful diss record probably ever made. Um, this is why you don't mess with the quiet kid in school. I would say, like Kendrick has always portrayed me as like one of those guys that is like kind of quiet, but like he's listening the whole time. And like if you make him snap, he's gonna go so far beyond what he should do. That's kind of what this felt like. This song is an entire dismantling of Drake's entire immediate family,
Yeah.
um, saying them by name. Uh, yeah, the first lines are "Dear Adonis, I'm sorry that your man, that man is your father." And so that is, he wishes his grandpa would have wore a condom. Um,
It's
and
rough.
like talking to his son about like, you're gonna grow up to be a good kid. I just hope that your dad does more for you. Um, giving him this advice, uh and then "Can't understand me right now, just play this when you're 18" is crazy. um that's the thing about this track is like there might be double entendres and stuff, but this would be stuff that only Drake would understand. To the majority of the public, this is just like straight shot, no fancy stuff from Kendrick. It is just so plain spoken and is crazy. um Going on to talking directly to Drake's mother, um, and his father, saying that his father is the reason that he's like a manipulator and has gambling problems and all of this. Um, he says Drake should die in real life like 3 times on this.
Yeah, it's
It
rough.
is insanity. He put this on Spotify too, by the way, so more people could listen to it. Um, Man, he took this thing so seriously. Um, Yeah, this song completely took out all momentum that Meet the Grams or that Family Matters had
Yeah.
immediately. He redirected the narrative literally less than an hour after that track got out, so it couldn't even sit at all. This is probably the best move in a battle that I've ever seen because it just took the wind out of him, and I think it was over at this point. I think you could call it here, and it would be over. Um, there are a lot of allegations on this track. I think we can talk about the big one first. I feel like I have a different opinion than a lot of people on this. That I don't really care about the whole like you were hiding a daughter stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was crazy hearing it on the first cause time because he's like you were hiding another child, and I'm like, there's no way that a second plane hit the tower.
Yeah, I
Like you can't
know.
do that twice. Um, But I mean, the way he was rapping, it felt like he 100% believed it, and I'm sure he did 100% believe it. Do I
Hmm.
know? Do I think this is true? I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like it's not, but I don't even know if it matters because that's not the most scathing part of this song. I think that's the shock factor part of this song,
Yeah.
and a song that's already way too shocking to begin with. Um, but I think this is when he like really comes direct with the predator, sexual trafficking, underage grooming, all of that stuff. He is straight shot on this track, and this is the first time he really does it. And I think this is where he got him because this is the one that there is evidence floating out, and people keep digging up new things that people have either forgot about or have just kind of been buried a little bit about weird interactions with teenagers, texting a lot of celebrities that were underage.
Yep.
Um, Even a lot of the lyrics in his songs are very sus when you go back and look at some. So I think taking this angle with it is the exact way to go. And I was waiting for him to do this because this is where you have the most evidence to back it up, and this is the biggest character assassination you can get him on.
Hmm.
Um, I if Meet the Grams ended this, it would have been fine. If there was nothing else after this, it would be. I think it is a kill shot, um, but I don't think it's even the best disc record here.
No.
Um, Now that I've had some time to sit with these and it's died down a little bit, um, but yeah, this was a wild song to witness, and I could not believe it was real. I was like groggy at like I couldn't sleep until like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, did this just happen? This feels like a fever dream. Um, I've never seen someone this mean on a track, like directed towards
No.
someone and their family directly. Um, I I didn't expect it from Kendrick, but like the more I think about it, I'm like, this is so Kendrick. The way he feels about his art and how deeply he digs into character and emotion in his work, it makes sense that he would go so over the top like this. Um, and I don't know. It completely took the wind out of Drake's sails. He went back to posting Instagram stuff after this. Uh, yeah, the whole daughter thing. Maybe something will come up about it. I don't. It's probably not true. We'll get into that again in a little bit. Um, I don't know where that info came from. It sounds like Kendrick wholeheartedly believes it because of the passion he has in this track and just the pure hatred you can hear from him. Um, but I think this one was definitely he heard Family Matters, he heard the whole Whitney allegations, and he said like in Euphoria he's like, don't touch my family and this will be a civil battle, and then he just wrote this demonic track. um, he really played into this boogeyman persona. Like people were genuinely terrified when this came out, and
Yeah.
I think for someone who doesn't release a lot of music, who kind of stays in the shadows, does their thing, you poke the bear, and oh my god, did he come back? It was rather stupid doing this for Drake. I think he took the bait, and he shouldn't have. But we can continue. We'll get to consequences later. So this came out Friday night, I believe, at 10:30. Everybody was really just taking the song in, and yeah, it was a crazy day on the internet. It was one of the weirdest. It was. I haven't had a moment like this, I think, for a long time, where I think the whole internet and people that were outside of rap beef were now getting glued into this because of just how insane that night was. I mean, that was 3 disc records on one day, technically. Um, and I think it ended up being 5 in a span of 48 hours, I think. Um, Something crazy like that. But we are not done there. After this, I think it was Saturday afternoon at like 4 or something. Kendrick drops again. A third plane is at the tower, if you will.
And I will.
They hit the Pentagon, I suppose. Um, and this is not like us.
Yeah.
So we're all reeling from the demonic track that was Meet the Grams. We're still dissecting Family Matters, even though the narrative has already kind of shifted on that track. And I think all people are talking about is how Drake got absolutely decimated. Um, and he drops Not Like Us. And the first thing you hear is Mustard on the Beat Ho. That is the weirdest. It, Going from that Alchemist beat to this was such a whiplash. Um, So with this one, we have a Google Maps street view of Drake's embassy, I think is what he calls it, in Toronto, his gigantic, huge house.
Hmm.
And then we have, I don't know how many are on there, like 13. Those are like the sex offender logos
Yeah.
for like the Citizen app.
Yeah.
Um, Man, there's a different kind of energy on this one. Um, we have this really fantastic like dancey mustard beat club banger, um and I think this was the kill shot of the kill shot. There was no coming back from this. You got decimated from a Alchemist produced 6.5 minute straight shot to everybody in your family, um this whole time going at his character with these other allegations. And then he comes back with a club banger 24 hours later. And you can tell that he made the song within those 24 hours because he directly addresses everything on Family Matters
Yeah.
and makes maybe the biggest hit of his career and one of the catchiest things he's done in his career. Um, I think one of the best parts about Kendrick of recent years is it feels like he has a lot better understanding of hooks and melodies on his hooks. I feel like they're not nearly as like clunky as some of Dam's were. I
Mm.
think Mr. Morale was a huge step up on that. And then
Yeah.
like now Kendrick has Like That, Euphoria, and Not Like Us. Three, well, Like That and Not Like That, Not Like Us being incredibly catchy, and Euphoria being like a classic Kendrick track. All of them charting like crazy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Not Like Us. The main sentiment of this track is that he's going full in on the Drake grooming, sex trafficking, pedophilia, all of that straight shooting, making it really fun. I think this is the worst thing that can happen to you is that you get a song this catchy and this fun because everybody's going to be singing it and dancing to it. Um, yeah, this was this is just the last track was disrespectful. This is just a victory lap and
Yeah.
one that I think really made it so that Drake could not recover at all. Um, really great lines on this one again. Uh, I'm finna pass on this body up. John Stockton line was fantastic. Um, John Stockton was someone who played with Carl Malone for a lot of his career, and Carl Malone was famously known for impregnating a 13-year-old. Um,
Oh.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Some of the best lines on this track are okay. Certified lover boy, certified pedophiles is absolutely crazy.
Especially the
Um,
way he says it.
Yes, the way he says all these is the thing that makes them so good.
I don't know what
I'm
how he's rapping. It's like the weirdest intonation on
Yeah,
everything.
I'm so glad that he hangs with Baby Keem this much because I feel like those two influencing each other's styles has been a treat.
Yes.
Um, you don't get this song if you don't get Family Ties or Hillbillies or any of those tracks. Like this is a kind of evolved sound for Kendrick, and it's one that is really, really, really working. Um,
Yes.
I think the trying to strike a chord that is probably a minor line was phenomenal as well. Again, it's not anything like brand new, but at the same time, it's like the way he says it and everything about it was just really, really funny. Um, the A minor, the way that he stretches it out is very similar to the inflection uses that Drake uses when he says that one of those kids might be Dave Freeze. So he takes Drake's line that was supposed to be have the same effect that this line had, flips it against him, so people will say this instead of that one when they think of that sound in their head. Um, Chorus is very simple but very catchy. I think it works. Um, what else we got on here? He says the rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further. He says he's got like 10 more diss tracks queued up if there needs to be. Um, this song is so good. I literally can't believe he made this in like a day. This was really something. Um, he calls out some OVO people by name. I think that's really good. Because I know there is someone on OVO that literally got convicted or pled guilty to sex trafficking, I believe, and that was he pleaded guilty for that to um, get a better deal than what he would have had if he pleaded not guilty because there was more charges added to that.
Mm.
And he still works on the label. And like Kendrick said on Meet the Grams, Drake keeps his kid around him and around some of these OVO people. And when you have a certified sex offender on your label, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Um, Sweet Chin Music and I Won't Pass the Aux Line, incredible. Um, Imagining Kendrick doing a Sweet Chin Music is one of my favorite things, I think. Um, Kung Fu Kenny hours. Uh, Devil is a Lie, He's 69 God line has been stuck in my head for like since this thing came out. These lines are so silly and stupid, but they're so effective. He rocked him at literally every single point of this beef. He has the cut that is like way too deep and serious with Meet the Grams. He has the banger um, of Not Like Us, and then Euphoria is just a character takedown that is getting better and better every single day. Um, it's really incredible. I should have expected something like this from Kendrick, but he hasn't really done a battle like this publicly, so it's like I don't know how he was gonna do. I didn't know how hard he was gonna go. Um, but then I forgot that Kendrick is a little bit of a freak, and that he probably committed a lot of time to making sure every single move in this went the way he wanted it to. Um, I think the third verse here is one of the best things he's done. He sets up this whole story of Atlanta
Oh
and
yeah.
talking about how Atlanta was a mecca during the early U.S. and that settlers came and used slave labor to build up railroads and trains and all of that stuff, and then relates that to Drake going to Atlanta and stealing styles from a lot of people like Future and Lil Baby, 21 Savage, Young Thug, Quavo,
Hmm.
Two Chainz. He says you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. And this really backs up everything he's been going at with Drake in that like he's fake. He has ghostwriters, he has fake abs, he takes all the styles from everywhere else, he uses fake
Hmm.
accents. He collects things like Pac's rings and Pharrell's chains. Um, like he's collecting it like some kind of Indiana Jones character. Um,
Like a villain, like a British
like a
colonizer
yeah,
as a trophy
yeah,
room.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So tying all those together, I think is brilliant because that is where you get Drake as well. Because he is a tourist in this. Like this is not his real life. He took this and he takes from a whole bunch of people and forms his style based off of that. Um, and you can clearly see that because look at Kendrick's style in this song. Nobody else sounds like that.
No.
Like this is pure LA, and you can hear it in the mustard beat. You can hear it in his delivery. You had people in the club going crazy to this. He really decimated him with this one, and it's such a fun track. And I think it's going to be charting for a long time. Um, but yeah, fantastic. There's so many layers I can get into for all these, but I'm tired and we'd have to read through like the whole Genius thing and we'd be here for like 3 years. We'd have to do a feature on this if
Yeah,
we wanted to do that.
honestly.
I don't think it's necessary to talk about this more than we need to. Um, but yeah, I mean, even the let me see hear you say OVO is just so stupid, but people are going to be saying that forever. Like that's a thing now.
Yeah.
And these are on Spotify now. They're charting. I think Not Like Us is about to top Euphoria. So Kendrick holds, I think, 2 or 3 diss songs in the top 10 right now. Which is funny because it's always like Drake is the numbers guy and Kendrick is the art guy. All of Kendrick's diss songs have outperformed Drake's songs, like all of them, all of the diss tracks. So he's lost commercially, he's lost lyrically, and we'll see with the final track so far of the beef that he lost the plot kind of completely on the last one. So as of now, May 7th, we have, as of now, what is the last song of this whole confrontation? The Heart Part 6 with the Drake response. Um, Obviously, the Heart Part 6 is based off the Kendrick Heart series, just like 616 in LA was based off of Drake's timestamp series. Um, I should say the 616 like quintuple entendre that people have been talking about is crazy. Um,
Yeah.
I think 616 is Father's Day, uh, and I think 616 was the day that the OJ trial started. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on with that one. I'm not gonna get into all that. Yeah, the Heart Part 6 drops I think Sunday. Yes. Okay, so this is the day after Not Like Us. Um, the song is sad. So I'll
Yeah.
say the YouTube like to dislike ratio, there is more dislikes on this video than likes. I think it's like a 40-60.
Yeah.
And if you go to the comment section on YouTube, it is all clowning Drake. I think that is the number one sign that you have lost, like completely. I think even DJ Academics, who was like the biggest Drake writer throughout this whole thing, has said that like it's done. Like Drake is out. It, I think I was not expecting anybody to move sides in this battle because the era of music we're in now is the whole stan culture with crazy fandoms like Taylor Swift and Kanye and all these people, where you kind of get these delusions when it comes to extreme fandom. So I was not expecting people to like hop sides on this beef. But the way that people have started turning on Drake is something we have not seen ever. I think if you were around when Drake was first getting popular, um, everybody hated Drake in the beginning. Like everybody would not give him the time of day, nothing. And slowly he kind of changed that. He had some really great records that showed a pretty unique and new style, combining more melodic stuff into rap and having a little bit more of a quote unquote softer side to rap, a little bit more emotional. Um, this was before Drake started doing all of the grabbing accents and stealing
Mm.
writers, having the weekend, taking half the weekend's album and making it into Take Care,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Um, so this is the first time that Drake's really kind of had a like his armor's off at this point. Like there hasn't really been, even with the Pusha T thing, like Drake's fan base still kind of stayed where it's at. They're like, okay, I don't care. With this though, I think we're seeing a huge shift in how people think about Drake now, and I think it does take someone huge like Kendrick Lamar and him not letting up like he didn't to do it that way. Um, but getting into the hard part 6, there's a lot of cardinal sins in this track. I think the first one being addressing things for pretty much most of the song and being on defense,
Yeah.
and not being on defense well either. I think he did the worst way of defending himself that you could have possibly done. Um, it was honestly kind of sad to listen to, but I also don't feel bad at all. Um, the first lines are the Pulitzer Prize winner is definitely spiraling. No, he's not. He just stomped all over you. Um, so he claims that Drake set up a rat with information to give to Kendrick regarding the quote unquote fake daughter and some of the allegation stuff around the pedophilia stuff. He said that he fed that to a mole to give to Kendrick so that Kendrick would look like a fool when he tried to do the "ooh, he has a daughter" thing.
Mm.
Which why would you do that? Because like if you do that, one, that is so weird. Like why would you give fake information that you have another kid that you're hiding? That like calls you out again on your shady parenting, or lack thereof. Um, Two, that literally like gives their whole game plan to Kendrick. Like if Meet the Grams did not happen as soon as it did, this would be a completely different story that we're talking about. But since allegedly that you gave that mole that information and allowed that mole to go to Kendrick, um, that made it so that you got absolutely destroyed 20 minutes after you dropped your nuclear bomb of a track.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense. He also he like said something about setting up the mole and then contradicts himself like 4 lines later saying that like uh, whoever did that was a clown. It was like, are you calling yourself a clown now? Like, what is happening here? The whole song is very sloppy from a writing perspective. It felt like this was a first draft that nobody really looked over, and he kind of just put it out. This also
Yeah.
sounds like a PR statement again, like the Pusha T beef at the end, which I knew he was gonna do. Um, Talks about how he's a war general and he's got all these, this decoration and honor and achievements. I think he's still trying to bolster some kind of hard edge to him here, but it's not really working. Um, yeah, I, man, this was a bad track. Um, what else did he say in here? Okay, I think another one of the biggest things on here. Um, he brings up the Dave Free thing again and asks why Whitney isn't denying all the allegations. Again, I don't know about all the Whitney stuff. I don't know if anybody ever will. If that does come out to be true, that's going to be a stain on Kendrick. But at the same time, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, People have seen that Whitney's brother is like publicly supporting Kendrick during this beef. So it'd be really weird if like your sister was got beat by this man and then you're out here supporting him in a rap beef. That'd be a little strange. That's not concrete as well. It's just a little weird thing that came up out of this.
Yeah.
Claims that he hasn't seen his kids in 6 months. Um, Claims that he lives in this penthouse in New York now. Again, he says he furthers as Dave Free is the father of one of these kids things, but he cites Dave Free leaving heart emojis underneath Whitney's Instagram posts with the kids. But like these people are like lifelong family friends. Like I don't understand
Yeah.
why this is the angle you're taking. Um, he he said he expected Kendrick to take this Epstein angle. Uh, you don't want to say that.
No.
There was no mention of Epstein or anything like this. Kendrick said Weinstein, I think, to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't think bringing up Epstein in any context right now is a good idea. Um, then next comes another damning thing that makes this track so horrible. I think Drake heard "Mother I Sober" for the first time on
Yeah.
Saturday, because he tries to claim that because Kendrick was sexually abused as a child, which he wasn't. The point of Mother I Sober was that when he said to his mom that he was not molested, she did not believe him because of the things that his uncle did to other family members and the trauma that carries on through generations through that.
When
Kendrick
did to
was not
her?
touched, and he says that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he says that to not explicitly in the song that he did not get touched. Um, but Drake took that as touched as a child, so that's why you're so obsessed with me being a pedophile. Not, not great. Uh, um, I don't know what you were trying to cook with that. That's not. Yeah, that was really bad. I think not understanding a song that is pretty direct on that record just shows how sloppy he is and how much he's falling apart at this point. I feel like he put this response out way too early too, because the way this thing came together, he doesn't sound excited either. He sounds really just done with himself.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
and like even if like he did misunderstand it, like let's assume for a fact that that's what the song was about, like
Uh-huh.
him being molested. He's still making like poking fun at like
Yes,
the
and someone
potential.
being molested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like messed up on two angles.
Hmm. It's a
Yeah.
weird angle to try to make an offense against you. It's like, haha, you were touched as a kid. Um,
It's so messed up.
yeah, not great. I mean, this beef has crossed so many lines, so I'm not surprised that this happened. And if you go back in the day to Tupac and Biggie, this would absolutely be on the table. Whatever, it's
Sure.
fine. It's just you're not even correct in it. First off, and second off, it's not a good line to go at somebody for, anyways. I
No.
think Mr. Morale in this whole context of this beef has shown itself to be more evergreen than anything else that is happening here. Kendrick has taken an incredibly personal, like, journey through his life and all of the troubles and the nastiness of it, and put it on display for everybody to see. And then kind of Drake brings up like half of that record in these diss tracks and tries to make it seem like a bad thing, like Kendrick didn't address all of this and had a whole storyline going through with this. Um, Really weird. Brings out the Dave Free allegations again. He's really trying to make those stick. I don't. I really when it comes to any of the allegations, I think this is the most far fetched one. It doesn't make any sense. Um, I think he's just trying to do the Whitney infidelity thing and trying to kick it up a notch. Um, I think he also mentioned on Family Matters or whatever that like Kendrick cheated on his wife, which we know that's on Mr. Morale. Um,
Hmm.
that was like one of the first tracks on that thing actually. Um, he says Drake is not a name that you're gonna see on no sex offender list. Uh, so you're mentioning A minor, but people gotta be sharp to tell the fans who was it. B sharp is not a note.
Yeah, that's C.
It's just C. Wah wah.
Well, that whole line
Yeah,
is just so bad. The way he
it
performs
doesn't
it is
make any
awful.
sense.
Because
Yeah,
there's more to it. There's more chords he
there
brings
is.
up.
Yeah, thought you left D flat D major, huh?
Yeah, but like you gotta hear the way he says it, because he sounds
Yeah,
like he's
it's just
dropping a bomb.
yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, okay. Only fucking with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I never look twice at no teenager. Nobody brought up Millie Bobby Brown. To be clear, you didn't have to do that, sir, and it doesn't make you look good. Um,
No.
the amount of things that have come out, just like of videos of Drake being weird, lyrics being weird, the interactions with people like Billie Eilish and Millie Bobby Brown, and a whole bunch of other celebrities that he hung out with before they were 18. I think there was one that like he was friends with a chick who was 16, and then 2 years later when she turned 18 he had like a romantic relationship with, which is definition of grooming. I think Kendrick's allegation on Meet the Grams as well is that like these guys set up Tinder. Like Drake has a fake Tinder profile that they bring people to, and that like his bodyguard kind of filters through women that Drake might be interested in and then brings them to him,
Mm.
which is pretty much trafficking at a low like level. Um, and this is something that is like pretty common with musicians. I think it's not too far fetched to think that any of this is true. This has happened a lot with a ton of rock bands and like groupie situations and the whole bunch of like shady stuff, especially with like 80s rock musicians. Um, so it's not even the biggest far fetched thing in the world, and the way Drake moves on Instagram and all of this stuff, like it's pretty believable to be honest. Of course, we don't have any like concrete evidence of anything like illegal happening, but like I don't think you need to because like his actions and the amount of proof with people that are 16, 17, 18 that he has had romantic relationships with, or any just like, I mean, him texting Millie Bobby Brown when she was 14 a lot, and saying how he missed her and all that stuff. That is creepy, dude. Like,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't have to be illegal. That makes you a weird person, and you should get clowned for it. And you are getting clowned for it currently.
Yeah.
Um, it, yeah, he is not doing himself any favors with this track. I was like, when I first heard this, I'm originally like, okay, I'd like another Kendrick track, but honestly, I don't think we need one. I think he killed himself with this track. Like,
Yeah.
he tried to defend all the allegations, pretty much failed on all accounts when it comes to that, and then says, "I'm leaving. I'm done. Like, you can have 10 more tracks, but I'm done. I'm out of here." And then he goes on a spoken outro, like sad, defeated, spoken rap. Not even rap. He's just talking, but he's making it rhyme.
Yeah.
He's doing like sad slam poetry at the end, saying that how he's burnt out and that it was a really good exercise for his pen game and that he was a really you were a really worthy competitor, but you took it too low. You went too far with it, and I'm done. You hurt my feelings. I'm going on vacation. Bye bye. Um, pathetic,
Yeah.
pathetic. The let's go back to let's go back to push-ups, where the entire hook on that song and Family Matters was begging Kendrick to drop. And then when he finally steps out, he's like, I'm done. You went too far. Um, yeah. I think it's over at this point. I think it could be over at this point. There might be a couple of remnants that happen, in a week or two, but I don't think I think the biggest kind of explosion of what this beef is over now. Um, and I think when we look back on it, I think Kendrick was rock solid all the way through. you go back to Euphoria and you listen to a lot of the lines that he claims on that track about how he's gonna like misinterpret things from Mr. Morale to try to attack him on the family front, um, all of that kind of stuff. That comes true. That's exactly the angle Drake played. Down to Kendrick saying, uh, I can predict your angle, and literally does for this whole beef. Um, yeah, this was just incredible when it comes to Kendrick's like writing and maneuvering of this situation. It's a nasty, nasty like thing, but it's kind of like a car crash. You just, you can't stop watching this stuff. Um, I mean, obviously, I'm more of a Kendrick fan than a Drake fan. I think Drake has really fallen off heavily in the past, I would say, you know, 8 or 9 years. Um, Putting on this fake persona, trying to be a gangster, trying to act tough, all this shady stuff around it, all the artists that he like kind of leeches from and then leaves in the dust, all the weird teenage girl things that have popped up throughout the years, just his weird attitude towards women rappers, like dissing Meg The Stallion after she got shot and all that. Just the disrespect and blatant like I don't know, buying all these things from like Tupac and Pharrell and like not properly respecting hip hop in general. Um, the colonizer line is absolutely correct. Like
Yeah.
this man took everything and tried to make it his persona, but at the end of the day, he is still an actor in this thing. And would it be an issue if he didn't have this fake gangster persona and tried to act tough and like a mob boss? No, it'd be fine. Drake could perfectly find his own lane in music and be really successful. I think he took a severely wrong turn when it came to stealing from all of these other artists, like Future especially.
Yeah.
Um, I think if that didn't happen and if he would actually like just form his own style and make the things that are true to him, I think he would do fantastic. I mean, a lot of the early Drake records are great for that reason. Um, and I think that's what really kind of struck a chord with Kendrick. Like this whole thing started with the control verse because Drake took it personally, and then it's just been subliminals back and forth for a decade until this point. This was just waiting to happen. Um, but I don't think this could have happened before Mr. Morale came out. I don't think this could have happened before the Pusha T beef. I think everything had to fall like this because everything Drake accused Kendrick of was either A, addressed on Mr. Morale, or B, really not like too deep, like the whole short joke and everything. It's fine. You can do short jokes. It's cool. It was fine, but like it's not going to work when you're against Kendrick Lamar. The man won a Pulitzer Prize. He's the only musician that has ever done that in modern history,
Yeah.
uh, let alone rapper or not. I don't think he understood how big of a lift that was at the beginning. Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day now, we have Like That, we have Not Like Us, we have Euphoria that are all charting.
Mm-hmm.
All have more streams than Drake. Um, and I think this actually takes a big hit to Drake's career. And I don't think the Pusha T one did at all. I think
No.
the whole like deadbeat father thing, people got over that. Like it kind of went back to business as normal. Sure, he lost a couple of fans, but it only made his like core fan base even more annoying at the end. Um,
True.
but when it comes to now, like you're gonna have people singing "Not Like Us" for I think the next month or two. It sounds like a summer jam. It's already getting the plays like that. It's getting played in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Someone posted all their reaction channels like reacting to Not Like Us, just like in a grid. And the way that everybody just started jamming to that song, I'm like, yep, it's over. It's done.
That's
I
great.
think the public perception has actually like shifted here. Um, and that's something I didn't think I was going to see from this. I think it was just going to be like a shots back and forth, and then everybody's going to be like, Drake won, Kendrick won. But I
Yeah.
think most reasonable people are like, yeah, Kendrick washed them. Even people that aren't even involved in hip hop or anything have been involved in this, and they're like, what is happening here? Um, so yeah, I think this is a major blow to Drake's career. I think he's going to take some time off for a while, um, mostly for PR reasons, but also like you can't really come back and do anything right now because you're going to get clowned by most people.
Yeah.
Um, there was something I saw on Twitter today. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently there is something going around in UMG asking EXO, which is the Weekend label, and Kendrick Lamar to come out publicly and say that the beef is over and that Drake is not a pedophile because they are losing a lot of money from brand deals
Wait,
because they do not want to associate with that.
why are they asking the weekend?
Because The Weeknd is a huge artist, and they probably saw that he is somewhat involved in this, even though The
Oh,
Weeknd just took one shot on one feature on the record.
yeah. I
Um,
didn't even think like
but
he
the
was on the
hatred between The
second
Weeknd and
Future
Drake
one,
goes
right?
back a lot. Yeah, he was
Well,
on the
yeah,
second. Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
but
that doesn't make any sense. I
yeah,
guess.
I don't know if that's true or not. There's a lot of stuff floating around right now, but it would make sense. I mean, like Drake has a ton of brand deals and everything, and he makes so much money. Um, and now everybody's gonna be calling him a pedophile and doing all these like lines that Kendrick did on Not Like Us because they're catchy and they're fun and the song is great.
Yep.
It's gonna be infectious, and it's gonna have a similar uh, thing that Back to Back had for Drake against Meek Mill. I think that's Kendrick literally talking about that in Euphoria too. He hit him with Back to Back twice, and then his last song being literally something like Back to Back, where it is a club banger, but it is a diss record. Um, Taking from Drake's formula in his past success and beefs and turning it against him. So, yeah, this was the wildest weekend for hip hop I think I've ever seen. Um,
Yeah.
I've still gone back to the story of Adidon, and that song is still so scathing. I think Pusha T just has the voice cut out for this. Um, Kendrick was really scary in Meet the Grams, but the way Pusha T delivers the lines on the story of Adidon, I don't think anything can touch that. Um, but I do think we have a lot of the best diss tracks that we've heard in a long time here. That's maybe one of like the last like true beefs in hip hop. It's not really a thing you see that much anymore,
No.
for good and bad reasons. I think Drake was definitely needing some realignment when it comes to the way he carried himself, and I'm glad Kendrick finally like there was finally this head to head because it's been brewing for like a decade at this point. Um, we got a lot of Kendrick music out of it, which is
I'll take
great,
it.
and they're genuinely good and catchy songs that like of course they're diss records, but I'm gonna keep playing them because they sound fantastic. The wordplay is great. Um, I'm loving this energy and new styles from him. He feels a lot more fluid and open and organic with his sound now. Not like those other like those old records from him are like, not great or anything. They're phenomenal. But I love the switch up that he's going through. I feel like him and Baby Keem have like merged a little bit in their styles. I feel like Kendrick has a lot better understanding of hooks and inflection, especially. I think he has one of the best deliveries in the game right now, just because of how weird and funny and alien his voice is, and how earwormy it gets with it. Um, but yeah, this was like a very systematic takedown, and I think Kendrick walked away pretty unscathed, pending any serious allegations, evidence coming out,
Yeah.
which I don't know if any will. Maybe not. It might just be one of those things that is just out there forever. Um, I think, when it comes to like people arguing about like why do you believe Kendrick and not Drake, I think again bringing up the whole character assassination of this thing that Drake is a liar and steals and has ghostwriters, lied about that, had lied about his ab surgery that apparently is probably a thing. Um, all these things that like he is digging in the dirt for, trying to find info on anybody, trying to grasp at straws, all of this stuff. Um, but when it comes to Kendrick, everything he said in any of these diss tracks, except maybe the child thing, has been pretty accurate, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, he's stayed consistent. There hasn't been any like holes in his narratives. Drake kind of fell apart in the Hard Part 6, and I feel like that was a huge blow to like people believing his allegations against Kendrick, because he carried himself in that song so poorly. Um, but yeah, this was a huge feud, and I feel like people are gonna be talking about this for a long time. Um, it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I feel like Drake is going to be gone for a while. I think Kendrick should definitely drop an album this year, mostly because I'm selfish and want more Kendrick music that sounds like this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't even need a concept heavy record. Like you're on a roll right now. Just get in the booth and do some crazy stuff like this, and that's all I want. You could make a poppy record, and I will be there for it. If you get more stuff like Not Like Us, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So I really do hope that Baby Keem and Kendrick collab album becomes a real thing. I think that would be a really fun record. Um, but yeah, I think that's the most of what we can talk about right now. I'm sure there's a lot more. Um, but I mean, we could go into every song, but we're not going to do that. I think um, I don't know. It was a spectacle to be sure. It's crazy to see the internet that alive. I feel like it's been really dull for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's been nice. You know, stuff's going on.
I know. Anything. Um, but yeah, really great. A lot of fun, a lot of disturbing things as well. But like, I was gonna say all's fair in love and rap beef, but not all is fair. Um, I mean, they got dirty and low really quickly. Um, but I mean, yeah, it was great. We got some great tracks out of it, and I'm glad that Drake's gonna go bye bye for a while. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
that'll
like
be
hide my
nice.
feelings on it. I feel like, I mean, going into it, I'm obviously a Kendrick fan, and going out of it, I'm obviously a Kendrick fan.
Yeah.
Like, I gave Drake a chance, and he did put up some pretty decent fights, but I think at the end of the day, when you look back at it, like, there's really no contest. Like,
No.
he cleared him by, I would say, miles. Um, yeah, the layers of all of his tracks, and the way everything flows together narratively. It's like he was making a concept diss EP for all of this. Like everything tied in like too perfectly. Um, but yeah, really good. Can we talk about Macklemore for a second? That's the
Is he
that's
involved?
the no, but I think it was a nice segue.
Okay.
The first thing I have to do after talking about Kendrick is switch to Macklemore.
Of
Um,
course.
Macklemore released a track called Heinz Hall this week. That was a just like straight pro Palestine, pro student protest track,
Oh,
um, which was wild.
Macklemore.
Uh, yeah, I do think there's a whole other angle, and I'm not going to be too annoying about this. I think there's another angle to all the eyes being on this major raft beef during one of the biggest student protest movements in the last, I would say, 30 or 40 years. And that kind of taking coverage away. I'm not saying it's deliberate or anything. I think it's just interesting. But Macklemore took this time to release a track that is very centered on that. I think he threw a Drake jab in here as well, which is really funny. Um, yeah, the song is decent. I think it's Macklemore, so nothing is really flashy. It's very pop rappy, and I don't think when it comes to lyricism, it's that crazy. But the sentiment of the track is really nice. A lot of the lines are very true. Um, yeah, it's a little corny, but the message is great, and I'm glad someone was speaking up about it. It's weird that it had to be Macklemore. Um, and but I just wanted to give huge props to Macklemore. Uh, I'm not like the biggest fan of the sound of it, but I think the sample he used was really great, and a lot of the lyrical content is good, even though it didn't come together in like a track that I'm going to listen to a lot. Um, but I think he did a great job with it. Um, but yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about recent events because I've been kind of keeping up with it as things have been unfolding, and I haven't given an update in a while. And I feel like the past couple of weeks have been the most eventful in a while. Um, so we had massive student encampment movements across the country, um, calling for their college campuses to divest from Israel. Um, I think it started with the big Ivy League schools because those schools obviously have the biggest monetary tie to Israel. I think a lot of those colleges actually having campuses in like Tel Aviv and stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so a lot of student protest movements of encampment, same as like an Occupy Wall Street strategy of like literally encamping yourself and placing yourself on the grounds for it. Um, and I think this one is a little different because like I feel like we haven't had a protest movement um, in the past couple of decades that have really amounted to anything or have been that solid. Obviously BLM was the last big one, but that one easily got co-opted by a lot of Democrats and just immediately died. Um, but with this one, it seems like the students are very, very well organized. There is lists of demands for literally all of these encampments. They are very clear um, in their wants and their request. Um, which has been really great to see. I think it's a big shift too, um, in just how people talk about this. I feel like there's a lot of these encampments have things like like check-in centers, so you're not they're not letting just anybody in. They're not letting media in. They're not letting politicians in, which is great. I
Mm.
think the co-option of this is the biggest thing that we need to stay away from. Um, because the minute you let a Democrat or anybody in there, the movement's going to get killed because they're going to water it down, just like BLM. Um, but I think this is SJP that is the main um, kind of, I don't want to say organizer, but force around this that is really carrying all these protests together. I think it's kind of turned into an organic grassroots movement, but they all have the same um, kind of message, which is something that is very similar to the Vietnam War protests. It's hard to get something like this, a grassroots, not really super like organized as in tied together under one thing, because it's easy to get co-opted that way, but separate entities all popping up for the same list of demands. But I think it's been really phenomenal to see. I think the students are doing incredible. There are a lot of ways to support them. I think if you go to pretty much any of the encampment social media, if there's turns out there probably is one at a college campus near you. There's a lot of them going on right now. There's a lot of ways you can help, whether it's like bring food, medical supplies, bail fund stuff. Um, I know a lot of the encampments have different rules about whether they let people from the outside in. Um, so, but obviously, if you're going to go over there and check it out, like be respectful to the encampment. Like, don't cause any issues. Listen to what they tell you to do because this is a very incredibly like I don't want to say fragile, but would we need to make sure that the line is held here. Um, but they're doing really fantastic things, and it's really inspiring to see a movement like that pop up. And I think this really does come from just like the atrocities that people are like clearly able to see. Um, I think the contradictions are just heightening and heightening more and more as this genocide keeps going on because people cannot really ignore it that much anymore. Um, and I think the big Ivy League encampments coming up really just did start a fire across the nation of people um, really like connecting with it and throwing stuff up to support it.
Yeah.
Um, I think times like these, you really see the arm of the state as well because like they had the entire NYPD like in there immediately at some of these colleges, and just the level of police oppression that happens here is absolutely wild. So absolutely stay safe if you're out there. Um, but this has been an incredibly nonviolent movement. There's been no violence at all from the encampment. It's literally just kids in tents with like signs, and they have dances and readings and movie watchings and classes and everything. It's literally just like a kind of like fair type thing, where they literally are just encamping on like just parks. They're not even like blocking lecture halls or anything. It's just park centers, whatever you can get at these colleges. I know some of them have heightened to moving and trying to occupy like the dean's office and that kind of thing. Um, I think it's all up to what the encampments are doing at that point. But we are seeing the police just absolutely crack down on these, and a lot of leaders of these colleges just like going full mask off on this and not even trying to meet demands. Um, I mean, a lot of them are in the pocket of Israeli lobbies. Um, and I think that's a big part of why this is happening because it's like Israel gives so much money to all these college campuses, um, and I think there's a bill trying to go through the House and the Senate right now that will reclassify what anti-Semitism is to include the definition that says any criticism of the Israeli state or the Israeli right to exist would be deemed as anti-Semitism, which would apply at college campuses. So you could get expelled for criticizing Israel, which would be
Hmm.
a horrible precedent to set. So I think
Yeah.
that's another big thing that they're asking for to not adopt. Um, but yeah, it's been a really intense but inspiring thing that has popped up. Um, and I think the invasion of Rafah has just started, I believe, the past couple of days. Israel is such a like they're so evil because they do this during big events. I think the Met Gala was like a day or two ago, and they started the invasion on that day, knowing that the media coverage was going to be focused on something else. Um, but Rafah is literally the last place that the Palestinians were told to go. There is no exit at this point, um, and there was a ceasefire agreement that Hamas agreed to with, I think, Egypt and Lebanon. But Israel said that it does not meet their requirements, and that even if they get all their hostages back, which there aren't any hostages left, they killed all of them. Israel killed their own hostages. That they would still not stop doing it. Um, but we are seeing a real pressure in the U.S. now. I think this needs to keep up because this is how a movement truly grows. Because it starts at the encampments in student protests, and it eventually will, hopefully get to more union-based things like the big unions like Teamsters and auto workers. Because I know they've tried to do a general strike, I think 2 or 3 times, and it's failed because obviously you can't do a general strike without the conditions being met, and they're obviously not met there. We are getting there because of the students, and if you look through history, you usually don't want to be on the opposite side of a student protest. Like they're usually pretty dead on with their demands.
That's true.
Um, so I think we're building towards the momentum that it will take to get towards a more bigger strike like that. I think once if unions do start co-opting this line, um, then I think it will be a real game changer. But it's going to get a little crazy in the next couple of months. I think. I think the whole rest of the year it's going to be a wild year. We have an election year, so on top of all of that. Um, but I don't think the administration has budged at all. They're still giving billions of aid to aid in Israel. I know some of these college campuses have fully divested from Israel. I believe one in Washington near Seattle did. Um, I know some other encampments have reached deals with the college. I know some of them are not great deals, saying that they'll do a vote on it in October, which is basically just delaying and killing momentum for it.
Yeah.
Um, but hopefully they stand strong. I know I have a couple by me that are 2 weeks strong now, and have been able to support like bail funds and stuff. I know there was UW Madison, where I'm at, has a Palestinian professor, and like the third day of the encampment, the police like beat him up and arrested him immediately.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, so it's but we're still going strong. They reset up and they're a little bit more planted now. Um, but yeah, go out there if you have any money, anything to give. They appreciate it in forms of bail funds or just general anything. Um, your encampment will most likely post like ours post an agenda every day. They'll let you know if you're able to stop on by or not. There's probably a check-in process. Just make sure you are respectful to uh, what they have. A lot of these students are very well organized. I'm surprised at the level of organization, especially after like living through the BLM stuff and just seeing how co-opted and watered down that got. It's really inspiring to see just like a really solid, real movement pop up here. Um, yeah, it's incredibly important. I know that like this whole beef stuff did kind of take away from that a little bit. Like I saw my Twitter feed go from like a lot of updates on that to just like straight rap beef for like a week. Um, and I think that's a downside to algorithms too, is like it feeds you what you want to look at. And I think some of this stuff does get lost in translation. Um, but it's important to know that this is still happening. It's still going on. Support the students. Keep speaking up. We're doing as most as we can right now. There's at least forward momentum here. I don't feel as like hopeless as I did before. Um, I know there is a international criminal court. Allegedly, there's an international criminal court arrest warrant out for Netanyahu that the Israeli and U.S. government is trying to block currently.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if that will ever come to fruition. I could see it happening. I could see a pivot happening where they throw Netanyahu under the bus. To kind of save face and like try to make everything go back to normal. Um, that's not that would be bad. I think Netanyahu getting caught for that obviously would be great. But this is not a Netanyahu problem; it's the entire government. Um, yeah, if anything, he's not even the worst. I think that Ben Giver fella. I think he's the one that called them human animals and does all that like just really mask off stuff. Um, he was in a car accident the last weekend, and that was like hilarious. He like flipped his car. I don't understand how that happened. Unfortunately, he was only slightly injured and taken to the hospital. But that man is the pure devil when it comes to this. Like he's full mask off at all times. Um, but yeah, I'm interested to see how the shift goes as we continue forward because mainstream media is still all over these protesters and saying that they're violent and not like speaking about their demands or anything. I think this is one of these mask off moments where like if you are paying attention, you can see how blatantly like mainstream media lies, how quickly cops can suppress these overwhelmingly peaceful movements. Um, I think there was this one in Alabama or Mississippi where they paid like a frat of counter protesters to like show up and like disrupt the encampment, and they all just like showed up wearing like American flag bro tanks and didn't even really know what they were protesting against or counter protesting against, but just really like annoying and disruptful like Southern white kids and frats, which might be the worst kind of person. Um, so it, counter protesters will always be funded. It's still an uphill battle, but we haven't seen something like this in a long time, and I think it's definitely something of note that we need momentum on. So yeah, definitely look it up for yourself. I'm so tired, and I did not have enough time to like prepare like a legitimate segment for this. Um, but just to speak on it, I mean, you can definitely find stuff near you. And a lot of these encampments like have education centers that they're like doing readings, and I think my encampment just showed Battle of Algiers last Friday
Oh, yo.
as a movie showing. So but yeah, don't believe the things you see in the media. Like you can literally walk down there for yourself and look at these encampments, and you can just see that they're literally just like students in tents, making art and teaching people and reading and all this stuff. Like some kids were even doing schoolwork outside because they were still trying to occupy it while still trying to get their finals done. Um, but yeah, it's an incredible movement, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think that's all my rambling that I have to do this week. This was a long episode.
Well, fair enough. I think I was worried about this podcast being too short, but
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought the meat.
Kendrick saved the day.
And Macklemore. Let's not
And
forget.
Macklemore. Do not forget Macklemore.
Yes, the white savior.
For real though, Macklemore has been on a very like I like Macklemore. I don't like his music, but I really like him.
He
I think
seems like a fun guy.
he has more respect for hip hop than he does than Drake does at this point. Like
I
he
could see that.
apologized after he won a Grammy over Kendrick's "Good Kid, Mad City," and I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
he is he's my unproblematic king. He has been really solid on the way he portrays himself. I don't like his music,
I would
but
yeah. I
great
would
person
I would
from what
never
I've
listen
seen.
to any of his music, but
Yeah, I used to listen to Macklemore when I was like 12, but
when the
yeah,
heist came out.
yeah, the heist with the what is it, Ryan Lewis
Yes.
on the yeah.
Oh, Macklemore. Turns out he's a good old boy. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, he's been kind of out of the limelight for a while, but he's been doing some good stuff.
Good for him. Well, in that case, I have nothing else to say. So, bye.